Hey guys, welcome into our brand new series, More Than a Hashtag. Now, look, that's a very interesting series because, okay, let's back up even further. Have you ever complained about anything? Yes, you have. If you said no, don't lie to me. We are in a safe space. Come on, it's just us right now. Yes, you've complained about something. Now look, complaining for you right now at this time in your life is a little bit, when I was coming up, back in my day, I'm sorry, I just sounded like a million years old right there. But anyway, when I was a teenager, like the only way we could complain is you could do it to your friends and just verbally complain and they did not care at all. Or you could basically just write it in a diary. Or a journal, excuse me, if you want to make it masculine, a journal. You could journal and your feelings and get it all out there. But then what would, they just existed like in a book. You know, that's where all my complaints were. But now, in 2020, man, you can fire those things off thanks to social media. Now look, if you've ever been on Facebook, if you have a Facebook account, you know some complainers. They will complain about anything, whether the roasted peanuts in my first class were not salted, whatever the complaint. Pizza, you can actually go on, you can find this on Twitter. There is a man that complained to Domino's about his pizza, saying it was just all bread, no sauce. And they said, so sorry, the Domino's responded back, so sorry to hear that. What was wrong? And he said, oh, never mind, I opened the box upside down. That is a true story. I have the receipts. We can show you that actually happened. So social media has done this great thing of giving everyone a voice, but it's also kind of done this terrible thing of giving everyone a voice. But some people actually use those voices for good. And some people, when they have a complaint and when they see something wrong, they use social media in a very powerful way. Now, well, obviously we're talking about hashtags, we're talking about social justice, and social media is definitely a part of that. And right now, social media is kind of leading the charge for raising awareness for social injustice. By now, I'm sure, and I'm assuming you're familiar with hashtag Black Lives Matter. Or a few weeks ago, there was Blackout Tuesday, where that was a Tuesday where I opened up Instagram and I thought the app was broken because it was just black square after black. I was like, did they log me out? Have I been blackballed? Is this what you look like when Instagram blocks you? You just can't see anything. But that was Blackout Tuesday. It was this movement to raise awareness for what's going on in our world. And that can be a very, very powerful thing. But it can't stop there. It's got to be more than a hashtag. It can't just be a tweet or a Facebook post. There has to be something else to go along with it. And actually the Bible says a lot about that. Now in the next few weeks we're going to be looking at Micah chapter 6 verses 6 through 8. It's 3 simple verses. We're going to read them together and then we're going to unpack them each week. So here we go. Micah 6 through 8. This comes from the NIV. With what shall I come before the Lord and bow down before the exalted God? Shall I come before him with burnt offerings, with calves a year old? Will the Lord be pleased with thousands of rams, with 10,000 rivers of olive oil? Shall I offer my firstborn for my transgression, the fruit of my body for the sin of my soul? He has shown you, O mortal, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you? To act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. Now, real quick, as we kind of unpack that, Micah is speaking to a group of people that are used to offering these sacrifices. This is not a new practice. This is how you come before God in a pleasing way as you offer sacrifices. And Micah essentially looks at all these people and goes, that's great and cool. That doesn't matter. You need to do something else. You need to act, you need to walk, you need to love in a way that pleases God. That is Micah's message, and we're going to look more at that. But right now, we're going to focus on the do something aspect of it. We can just use the hashtag Black Lives Matter, but we need to put an action with that instead of just pressing tweet or hitting post. There's so much wrong with what's going on in the world around us. It's easy to see. And sometimes it seems like everywhere we look, there's brokenness, there's tragedy, there's injustice. And the magnitude of the world's injustice can seem overwhelming. Maybe you've heard the phrase, do something. I'm sure I'm not the first person to say that in your life, but instead of feeling inspired or motivated, maybe you feel helpless or unsure of what to do, or unqualified. And if that's you, here are two things to remember as we move forward. Number one, God is the miracle worker, not you. Look, I'm 35 years old. I'm probably not going to live long enough to see the end of racism in America. Probably not going to live long enough to see the end of racism in our world. But what I can live long enough to do is allow God to begin to change my world and to change me so that I can change the world for my daughter and the one behind us. And hopefully she's the one that sees the end to this worldwide pandemic of racism. So I want to allow God to work the miracle in me and to allow God to work the miracle in the world. And hopefully I can just be part of that. And number two, you don't have to do everything. You just got to do something. It's easy to be overwhelmed and to feel, and that is totally natural if you don't specifically understand Black Lives Matter because you're not Black. Like, that's fine if you don't understand it, but we're still called to go to do something. You are unique in your qualities and strengths and abilities and your experience. That can equip you perfectly for doing good works. God has designed you to do good works, but it's up to you to go and actually do something. In just a few minutes, we've got Manna and Joshua are going to unpack a few discussion questions that we've got for you and your small group. And then a little bit later, I've got a conversation with Katie McElwain, who's our Director of Outreach Ministries here at Cokesbury Church. And that's a lot of practical ways that you can actually do something right here in Knoxville. Hey, look, I know that this isn't easy, that a lot of times this is uncomfortable and a difficult conversation, but it is, and I can't stress this enough, a necessary one. When we see injustice and when we see wrong, it's our duty to point that out, to talk about it, and then to do something about it. But the good news is we don't do it alone. Actually, God does most of the heavy lifting, but we just got to go with him.
Hey guys, it is Manna and Joshua, and we wanted to take a second to look into some of these discussion questions. You guys are going to be able to talk to your small groups about these. They'll be available on the resources tab on the Cokesbury app, as well as on the website, cokesbury.tv/students. There's a big list of questions for you guys. We just thought we would hit on a couple of them. Starting with, what are some ways that you've seen social media fight for justice? What are your thoughts on that, Joshua?
One of the ways I've seen it recently, just one of the things that come to mind, the Blackout Tuesday, do you remember that? Mm-hmm. Where everyone was posting on their Instagram just showing their support for the injustice that is going on right now and showing that everyone remembers. But just also messages of love, if that makes sense. So just pouring out love to other communities and to each other, just showing that we support each other as one and are just trying to show that we love each other as one, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And I think it's, the big thing about social media is you can spread awareness so quickly.
Oh, yeah.
Because so many people are on it. It's so accessible. And then you can ask for help on such a large scale, and people can respond that way. But the thing about it is it also can contribute to such injustice, which is super sad.
Yeah,
because
that's the sad part about that.
The whole large-scale awareness, you can make people aware of a lot of hatred and negative stuff. So I think, we have a great responsibility to whatever we post, to really be a part of bringing awareness to the justice side of it, and not contributing to the injustice part.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. And kind of going off of the just spreading the injustice, I think we have to remember when we are talking about that we are all God's creation, that we are all like children of God. So one of the things that that really hit with me, remembering that, is just that changes the way that we should view other people. Because if we're all children of God, that means he loves us all equally, no matter what, no matter who we are, where we come from. And right now, I think that's one of the most important things to remember as you go through your day in school, with your family, just spreading that love of knowing that we are all children of God.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the questions that we really were thinking about doing this were, how should knowing you are God's masterpiece or a child of God change the way that you view yourself? And then how should it change the way that you view others? Well, I mean, for me, that's just realizing self-worth and understanding who I am in Christ as just I am loved as a human being and who I am. And then when you're viewing others, you have to remember the same thing and just spread that love to other people and not just spreading hate or intolerance, but just showing that we are all God's creation and that we all should love each other and treat each other equally.
So even if we're different, or even if we disagree with someone for whatever reason, we have to remember that everybody is a child of God.
Yeah.
And so that's the most important thing when it comes down to it, is maybe not the issue that you disagree on. It's that each one of us is a child of God and we're made in his image. So really trying to focus on that is really important when it comes to issues of justice and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Okay, so one of the next questions that we're going to talk about is, what might God be calling his people to do about these injustices? And I think that really goes back to what we just talked about too, remembering that we are all God's creation. So I think one way in school that we could see that one thing you could do, have you always heard the thing of sitting with someone at the lunch table who seems like they need a friend or something like that? Well, during this time, it's just when you're seeing any of like that hatred or that anger spread, I feel like God's calling us to say something about that and not just simply disagree with it, if that makes sense, but to, do something, and not just like a big grand gesture, but something small, like just showing that you love that person, saying, hey, that's not okay.
Yeah.
Just hang out with the person.
And I think, sometimes it's hard to know what to do.
Yeah.
And I think for me, just where I am in my life, I don't always know exactly what I can do. And I think that's probably true for everybody. But I really like what, somebody said at one point was, it doesn't matter what you do necessarily, just do something. You don't have to do everything.
Yeah.
Just do something to make a difference. And like you said, maybe that's just being kind. Maybe it is posting something on social media. Maybe it's going to a protest. But I think God will call you to do what you're supposed to do. And we're also different, and we all get called to do different things. Some people get called to do the large scale things. Some of us get called to do the smaller scale things. And I think one thing that's really important for us to remember in those moments is that it's not up to us to do the miracle. It's God doing, changing people through us and changing ourselves, in the process. And so I think, we have to remember that let God do the work. Just be willing to be kind of the vessel and the
definitely.
one who's willing to step out and do something. And you don't have to do everything. Just do something to make a difference. And those can be those little things like you were talking about, sitting with somebody at the lunch table, helping a neighbor, volunteering, any of those things can make a difference. And we just have to be willing to step out and do that.
Because the little, what seem like the smallest things really make a big difference in just one, even if it's just one person's day, just one person's life even.
Right, and you may not know that you've made that difference, but just do the right thing, and hopefully it will pan out in the long run.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Hope you guys enjoy working with these questions. There's lots of them, and I hope you'll take some time to really think about the message that Josh has presented to us, and take some time with your small groups to really dig into these questions and do some new things this week.
Hey guys, I am now joined by Director of Outreach Ministries, Katie McElwain. So Katie, first of all, thank you for taking some time for us. So we're talking about this idea of doing something. And so the causes for some injustice, there are three main causes: physical, relational, and systemic. And so what we wanted to do, we provided a list of resources for our church and for our students. And we invited you, and we want you to make these local for us because we want to do something, and maybe you can help us point in the right direction. So if we look at a physical cause, so like some justice issues can be addressed by meeting people's physical needs. Food, big physical needs. So if we want to do something, what's a couple of resources we could use to address those needs?
So thanks for asking, and thank you guys for doing this. So important. Hopefully you've heard about Manna House, and that is just a easy and important way to address the physical needs of our community. So a couple ways, even right now during the pandemic, you can donate food, non-perishable food, to Manna House. And even, I say non-perishable, we just got refrigerators, so we can even take milk and other such things. And so you can donate that to the church, and then you can even volunteer. So we have right now on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we do bag packing, and that's really easy. Even a family could sign up, or a small group could sign up and pack the Manna House food bags, which is very easy but very important. And then on the opposite days, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, we distribute food bags, and we do it in a socially distanced way. So bring your mask, and but it's really important. And these times where folks that have dealt with generational poverty, but then also folks that have lost their jobs or lost shifts, it's really important to meet those physical needs. And Manna House is a great way to do that. You can also donate financially to Manna House. Second Harvest that's another great organization that you can get involved with. They are always looking for volunteers. You have to look into what the specifics during the pandemic are as far as volunteering right now, but that's a great organization to both donate to and to volunteer. They have a great warehouse that you guys can serve at.
And I think our spiritual growth team actually went and bagged cereal with Second Harvest Food Bank one day. So that was an easy trip, but served a great purpose. Okay, moving on. Relational causes. So these are justice issues that require a relational investment. And there's a couple ways here at Cokesbury Church that you can kind of get to know a few folks as well. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, and this is kind of where my heartbeat is, that I think if you can couple relational ministry in any form or fashion with what you're doing in justice work, I think you'll be richer and better for it and be changed for the better. So a couple practical ways that you could do that. Hope Initiative is a program we have here at the church that primarily serves single parent households, and we are always looking for what we call homework helpers, and it's really easy if you can hang out with an elementary school child and come alongside of them in their homework and just have fun. We provide dinner and
what's like the age range for that?
So we serve anywhere infant through high school students, but we have fantastic high school volunteers that serve with, and we'd match you with a K through 5 student. And so it's super fun. We meet on Tuesday evenings from 5:45 to 7:45. We'll feed you a really good free dinner, but that's a great way to not only come alongside of that child and support them, but while you're doing that, that's allowing their parent to work on their own growth. So mom, for example, is taking a class on finances and looking at what it looks like to break that cycle of poverty in her own life and modeling that for her kids, that investment that she's making in herself. So that's a fantastic way to do that.
Because you get to serve the kid through homework, but then you're also serving the family by allowing the mom to kind of improve her situation, or the father, whatever the case may be.
We do have a couple single dads.
Yeah, True. All right, so the final one, and this is the tough one that's kind of... it's difficult to talk about because it's the systemic causes, that these are deeply rooted kind of in society. So talk a little bit about if we want to affect a systemic change. A lot of people associate that with going on marches or peaceful protests or things like that, just to really speak out about what they see. What is one way locally that you could get, maybe if a protest or a march is not available to you?
Yeah, and what that has looked like for us as a church over the past, I think, 3 years. We took a next step, a big next step as a church to get involved in justice work. We realized there's a difference between, if you look at Micah 6:8, there's a difference between mercy, justice, and faithfulness. And so our church does a really great job in faithfulness of gathering together every week to worship and to study and to grow in our walk with the Lord. But then we have a rich history and mercy ministry, and so Manna House would be a great example of that. But justice is harder, and because it is not something that we can do alone. It has to be us joining together with a larger community to really see, as you said, systemic change, and it's not something I can do by myself. So Justice Knocks is an organization that came on the radar screen for us a couple years ago, and I'm really proud of the work that's been done there. So that would be my recommendation. And there's a couple different ways that you can get involved. The Justice Knocks works on a kind of annual calendar cycle. And so it starts with listening to the community. And so that's in the fall, there's a great way to be involved in what we call a house or a listening session. And we do that across the community that says, what is it that wakes you up at 3 o'clock in the morning that you're worried about or that you're stressed about? And that's where we start to hear, gosh, what's really going on in the lives of our community. And that's happening not just at Cokesbury, but all across churches across our community. And so those issues bubble up, and then they turn into actionable items. So some really heavy lifting volunteers are typically retired because they have the time to do this, but they join research teams. And so they start getting to work on those issues. And then it culminates in what's called the Nehemiah Action Meeting, which is typically in the spring. This year we didn't get to have that, but we'll hopefully be back next year and be able to do that. But that's where we call those that could have positions of power to make a decision that would have real impact on those justice issues. It causes them to see, gosh, there is community support to make this hard change. And we've seen real results from that. So for example, one of the issues that bubbled up quickly in our community was the criminalization of the mentally ill. And so in the past, however many years in our community and in our country, the mental hospitals have closed, and there's not great access to mental health treatment in our community. And so the police officers and the prisons have stepped up to be that, which we know as a community we can do better than that. And so we are able to push for some really extensive training that police officers now, both the sheriff and the KPD go through, which trains them in de-escalation techniques, and it trains them in understanding mental illness, and also about what other resources are out there apart from just taking someone and parking them in the jail, which causes more trauma and emotional hardship, and then makes it harder to get a job because now you got this criminal offense, whereas what they might have needed is help. So there's some easy ways to do that, which one just looks like coming to the Nehemiah Action and showing your support just in your in your physical presence to say, as a community, this is important to us, and putting our dollars towards this or our efforts towards this is meaningful.
Well, that's a lot, but a lot of good stuff being done there. So, Katie, we want to thank you for your time. And then if you want to get involved in any of these, we'll provide links for you to join in as well. So there are ways where you can get out and do something right here in Knoxville. So thank you, Katie, again for highlighting some of these great industries.